Hey, honey. It's I wanted to show you a couple things here. First, I have this deer hide that I was gonna throw away, but I salted it over the winter time, and I was either gonna throw it out or I was gonna tan it. I really can't be bothered to go tan it right now, just because I'm trying to always stay focused. It's like very easy for someone with my brain to just get distracted by all the things coming your way and all the things you want to do, and sometimes you have to, like kill your darling, sort of. Pluck the weeds to water the flowers, whatever the saying is. But I like once again went down the rabbit hole and saw this extensive video on how to tan a deer hide, which I can't be bothered to do right now. Then I found a simpler one, which won't be as good, but it's using this formula, and so I'm gonna wash all the salt off it, wash it, dry it, use this, and then see what comes of it. But it'll be my first time trying to tan a deer hide. Then I'm in this chat called the Proteinies, or the Protein Chat, but I named it the Proteinies, with a guy that I've actually never met, but I was hooked up with him just because we both love to make food and you cook, especially protein. And he said that his favorite ramen, cheap ramen, is this, which I bought. But the problem is, and I wrote him this, I was like, this is like morally against everything that I've ever practiced and preached for the last 12, 15, 20 years or so. This is just like really bad for you. All this stuff is not for me. So I figured I would shoot this before I get all bloated from the salt and all the just pure crap in it. I mean, look at this. One of these containers has 71% of your daily sodium. So high in carbs, and the only good thing is at least there's some protein in it, and then this laundry list of ingredients that you can't even pronounce. You need an OChem degree to decipher it. But there's a cute little thing on the cover. Then I somehow became an expert in earbuds the last week because my charging case stopped working, like the battery stopped working. And so then I bought a Sony XM5. Then I bought these Technics AZ80s. Then I bought these little ones. This is only $16. They're called Tozo. And I was checking like how easily people can hear me on the phone, how the sound sounds. Obviously, I didn't want to go back to Apple because they've like burned me twice now. And so I bought the Sony, and those are each $300. This is only $16, and I returned both of those. And I kept the $16 one because this is like really good, surprisingly, for only $16. But then I found a knockoff Chinese version of the charging case because that's all that's broken of it. And like, look at how similar they get it. There's a little lanyard case in the Chinese one, and it makes a different sound. Which I guess now it's not making. Okay, and this is the old one that doesn't work, and if you put something in between there, you can rip it out and change the battery. I was going to do all that, but once again, I can't be bothered to get distracted, so this is like $30. Let's see if it works. There are these like paid reviews of people that get it for free. I don't know what they're doing with their lives, and 90% of them were that. Then like the 10% that weren't said like, you guys fried and like destroyed my headphones. So I don't know what this world economy is now coming to. You people are getting products for free to give a review. It's so confusing and stupid and just terrible. The economy is just going cheaper and cheaper and cheaper for the consumer, but we'll talk about all that later. The whole point of this video that I want to tell you though is about war. This episode is an interview I did with a Korean War veteran. Actually, I think I did this a few years ago now. I was in the supermarket here and I saw a guy with a Vietnam veteran hat, a Korean War veteran hat, and I know well, I'll explain. I think about war a lot, and I stopped him. I said, thank you for your service, and I just said hi, and it was like my first time doing these interviews on camera. I've done now thousands of interviews, I think, in my life, or like at least hundreds of interviews, but never on camera. They've just been for me, and that's one of the inspirations to do this for you. I'm like, what do I do with all this information? Why don't we start recording them for you so you have interviews too, in case you don't feel like interviewing people yourself. But it's where you can get the best detailed knowledge and wisdom and insight versus the news or anything like that. And all these people are on this horrible site now called Twitter. When it came out, I knew this was garbage, and people are still on it. It's like really sickening to watch, but whatever. I'm gonna cut here because this is out of space. This Korean War veteran, met him at the supermarket. He's wearing the hat, a very nice guy, invited me over to his house. Came over, saw his lovely wife. I think he's in his 80s or 90s now, and he's a runner. He runs all the time. Marathons, 5Ks, everything. He's been running for his whole life. And it's just, I forgot where I left off, but let's go into why I do this. An interview question that I have for a lot of people, which I haven't asked in a while now, is, and I'm almost trying to find a more delicate way to put it, is, what do you think of? What do you think about? I think it's a good way to assess people's minds. I think it's not a question you should ask right away and expect an answer right away. It should be something that you kind of leave with them. I also asked them another question, which is, what are your 3 favorite inventions? Just to see, and I feel like I can usually get an assessment of their mind from there. Mine's changed from when I was much younger to now. But I ask about what you think about. And for me, I think almost every day about war, and I think about it. I'm a little bit thrown off in the energy. Sorry, just because. Yeah. It was. I was maybe 12 or 13 when I saw the first images, or maybe a bit younger than that, when I started getting into history, U.S. politics, government, world history, international relations, things like that, and I would see these images of war, the Spanish Civil War, Napalm Girl in Vietnam, a lot from the Vietnam War, World War II, not so much World War I at the time, but when I was younger, Vietnam, and then there was a war in Afghanistan and the Gulf and the war in Iraq as I was growing up. And I was the only one in my school who got it right when we went on the board and said how long the war would last. At the time, there's all this stuff about shock and awe and you carpet bomb and all this stuff. And I don't know how, this is not like a brag or anything, although it may sound like that, which is weird, so it's not a brag. But the teacher had up on the board, how long will the war take? 1 day, 3 days, a week, a month, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And all the kids went up to the left side and they wrote their tallies, and the craziest one was, I think, 3 months, and Americans were talking about shock and all this stuff. And at that age, for some reason, I was the last person to go up. I went all the way to the right, and I put my tally on 20 years plus, and I was right. It is our longest war in America. We lost, and combined spent about $8 trillion. So whenever government says they don't have money for something, that's not true. They're lying. They have the money for things that they want to do. And so, we'll go into war a lot. I interview a lot of veterans. I think about war every day for several reasons. We'll go into all that later, but because it brings the animal out of you, this dog inside you that you didn't know was there, that maybe was lying dormant. And as a person that always seeks the truth from the universe, I wonder what humans are really capable of. And you'll read these things that'll forever change your brain. Iris Chang, she died at 36, self-inflicted, in California, wrote about the rape of Nanjing. And when I heard about that, as I researched it, I couldn't believe what I was reading. And she started researching the Bataan Death March, and that's what was believed contributed to her depression and this macabre feeling. Same with, I believe, Kevin Carter's his name, from the Bang Bang Club. His photography heavily influenced me as a child, and he committed suicide in his car through carbon monoxide poisoning, suicide. So in the intro I said you have an important decision to make, which is only follow what I'm saying if you're choosing this life, or if you're not choosing this life, that's fine. Most people don't. Most people have no idea. I went to a dinner the other day where the family had no idea what was going on in Gaza from the other side, anything with the history. And I was like, oh, this has been on my mind since I was 12 years old. You really didn't know. And the person, even there, 6 or 7 months into the war, did not know that there was a history involved. So I don't know what people are thinking. This cute joke back in the day on Leno and all this stuff of where's Afghanistan on a map, where's Iraq on a map, and people go, I don't know, it's not funny, it's not cute, people are dying. There was a website when I was younger called LiveLeak that I used to peruse. Probably morbidly, but it's just so I knew what was really going on in the outside world. Like, what are people going through? How far can humans go? And then it changes how you view things, but you are getting the truth, I believe. And even I interviewed some people from China, and they're a bit younger than me, and they go, they just visited Japan, and they go, I'm not sure if you know, but there's a bit of a history here. I was like, honey, I know probably more than you do about this stuff. Yes, I know what the history is. And so the problem, as I've always said, which I'll go into in another episode, is that the way to break this cycle, or this cycle, is to get rid of childhood indoctrination. So when an older generation is teaching the younger generation about something they haven't experienced yet, about something that they experienced, that is now like indoctrinating the child into a burden that they don't have to. I mean, you could break the wheel right there and start anew, tabula rasa, like a clean slate. That being said, the counter argument is, why would you want to forget it? You should be informing this child of stuff. I just don't believe that most human adults, especially the parents with their natural human biases, will be properly informing their children. So they'll raise them to say, well, this race of people are dogs or animals or rats or whatever. And I wish they would just say, you guys should start anew. As I'm trying to do with you, here's the data. You assess, but every person's a new person. That being said, as you get older, if everyone around you has been indoctrinated, it's harder to, or it's almost impossible to be the only one who's like, I'm not indoctrinated, if that makes sense. Do you know what I'm saying? So yeah, ever since I was younger, I did my study abroad year in London in the Houses of Parliament, and I wrote letters for my MP that discussed what to do in Iraq and all this stuff. I was an intern who had no business. Well, I think I had business being there, but I'm not even sure why I had that sort of access. And she threw it out, didn't read it anywhere, went with the flow. She eventually got fired. Got removed, I think, from office for stealing money. So this is how sick these politicians are worldwide. But it's as early as then that I've been doing it. There are young men that I went to high school with who I have now seen their grave, and I remember them. Very good-looking, white, talented, all American, red-blooded Americans, and they're being sent to this area for a war that didn't make any sense. And I knew it early, and I didn't have the power to do what I need, what I want to do, or speak up. I mean, I did as much as I could, but I was just a kid. So this is, one way to kind of get it out. But yeah, they are, dead. Or I've seen their brains get, one of them was, stepping on like the Quran and all this stuff, and he's in a Muslim country with a machine gun. Judge, jury, and executioner there. So somebody who's stepping on the Quran, I'm not sure should be in a war like that. So there's a lot to talk about in great detail. War is not a light thing. It's not a joke. It's not a fucking joke. This is what I keep telling people. It's the same fervor. Everyone gets excited for it. Then they get like weary of it after like oh wow, it's been 3 months, 9 months, man. It's been 5 years. Really, the war's still going on. So yeah, still going on. What do you think war is? So I hate that part. And I even had like an accountability thing where I was like, who was the president's age that you're legal to be president at the time we approved the war in Iraq and Afghanistan? Well, that's 35. So how old should they be now? They should be 57-ish. These are the men and women to hold accountable, because what were you doing at that time? If I called it right as a child, why couldn't you call it right as a 35-year-old? These politicians that approve war, that don't have any of their own children going to war, there's a level there. Sagan's quote about the pale blue dot, when he says that you can't see any borders, all that bloodshed shed for a corner of that dot. And even me and my mates were talking about like the Crusades and all these wars from the past, Hannibal, Alexander the Great, Hawaiian Wars, everything from thousands of years ago. And it's like where you're on a battlefield at 5 a.m. charging sides. These are actually like your brothers. There are no differences, really, for most war. It's just so some king who's not really involved with his own bloodshed, has no skin in the game, can go move a border on a map. This is why, the Bible is right with, blessed are the peacemakers, because it's very easy to go to war. It's very easy to go fan the flames of hate and to say, well, that person's different than you because of height, skin, gay, race, religion, whatever. That's not hard to do. Okay. That's very easy. If you see any leader fanning those flames of hate and difference, that's not like an impressive leader. That's very easy to do. I wrote an economic article about this, that it's very easy to fracture. I wrote this when I was 21 in university. It's very easy to fracture. You can always find a difference. I can always find a difference. Well, the Earth, Western Hemisphere versus Eastern Hemisphere. Okay, Western Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere versus Southern Hemisphere. Okay, now in the Americas, U.S. versus Canada. Now in the U.S., flyover states versus coastal elites. Okay, now the coast, New York's better than San Francisco. Okay, now well in New York, actually, Queens better than this borough. Then in this, it's like you can keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller and keep finding ways to fracture. But that's very stupid. It's very easy. It's very obvious. It's not hard. It's not impressive. And the penalty of this, the payment of this, is the shedding of blood by a child. It's never the adults going. You notice that it's never the ones with the gray hairs going. They can run too, but they don't want to do it. So they send like the kids. There's a great section on PBS about World War One. I can link here. And I just watched some interviews yesterday that was taken in 1950 of a young German who had to bayonet another young Frenchman, French boy, and he was like, "Why did I do this? If only he could indicate that he wouldn't do it, I wouldn't have done it." But it just happens. Like it's the same story every time, honey. I'll go into all of it later, though. Yeah, that's all I got for you for now. Anyway, we'll go into all the details of all this, and I'll give you like a bunch of evidence and a bunch of supporting data. Sometimes war is necessary, but it rarely is. There's usually a way if you just speak up, and if you're the more magnanimous person, there's usually a way to avoid it. And it's also, we'll talk about the military industrial complex, which both Eisenhower and Kennedy warned about during their presidency, and they both served in the same war. And that's why it's not funny when I meet it's not young people, but it's just average people and who just don't know history or don't study it, or those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. They say something like that. And I've seen all these themes. I know it. I've done a bunch of interviews and interviews from a lot of veterans, and even among the veterans there are some that have seen battle and some that are in an office somewhere at a distance. So even the people who are involved don't quite sometimes know what's happening there, which is a theme you'll see in life often, by the way. There are like doctors that don't know research. There are politicians that don't know what's actually happening inside the government. There are computer programmers who don't know what's happening in their country, in their company. So that's a theme you'll see as well. But I try to interview people that have seen battle, and I've met a lot of old men, so now they're trying to like divide us based on race and all this stuff. It's not. You can talk to these guys. These guys are awesome. They're like some of the best. These guys helped raise me. Old white men and women. They're awesome. They helped raise me. So right now, hopefully this isn't here when you're here, but there's a movement now to separate us all by race. Once again to go make us fracture. But these guys loved me and I loved them. Very deeply, more than just what they sacrifice for this country. But I just think about it a lot. And every D-Day I have to go preach to certain friends, new friends I make, why it's relevant, why it matters to white people and to immigrants, to like everybody. So anyway, I interviewed this young man in his home very generously. This is now a few years ago, and I sent him a message last Christmas and asked how he's doing and things like that. And there's a lot of sensitive moments in this when he describes his troop basically getting like evaporated and he's the only one surviving. And then another big thing, if I remember correctly, I'm gonna watch the interview again fully after this. He mentions when he comes back to the U.S. how people just acted like the war didn't happen and like they didn't quite know. So there's like a separation there. There's a war going on and we're here. If you watch The Hurt Locker, which I didn't quite understand the gravity of that in the beginning. I didn't quite feel it in the beginning. But when he goes back to the quiet cereal aisles of a supermarket in the suburbs and just that quiet din versus the gritty, like adrenaline junkie feeling of Iraq, I get it. Sometimes like your PTSD can even be quieted by being in the chaos. I think this is also seen in The Accountant when Ben Affleck was sitting, he listens to like metal music, and that like crazy music helps calm the mind down a bit. But yeah. This is one interview with a Korean War veteran. I think about North Korea a lot and South Korea a lot. I have a couple of I do a lot of Korean cooking. I have a lot of Korean friends, and I love Korean cinema. And I think about, I don't know how much I can say here because some things are sensitive, but I think about North Korea a lot, meaning almost every day I think about North Korea. I've done a lot of deep research into North Korea, and I think about those 28 million people that are there. And when you look at a map and you see like the light difference, like the lights of South Korea versus North, and it's happening, there's a little bit of survivor's guilt there. Not a little bit, there's a lot of bit of survivor's guilt there. So this is a wonderful young man who's going to talk to you about the Korean War. Listen if you want to or don't. I hope you're having a good day. Yeah, I can't wait to see you. I love you and I love you. All right. War is not a joke, okay? War is a drug. War is really fucking serious. When you see somebody's entrails out of their thorax screaming for their mother like a fucking infant, then you'll know. This is not a joke. It doesn't matter if you're 6'4" with a bunch of muscles, stuff like that. When you're war's not a joke. You'll see people reduced to something that you can't believe, and you'll see men and women do things that you just didn't know was humanly possible. And then we move on from it, and the beach is clear, and cities are rebuilt, and yeah. All right, honey. Sorry it's so dark, but this is it's some of the things we gotta learn, right? All right. I love you and I love you. All right, bye.
Well, I went up, with the other kid.
Yeah. Okay, so we're recording now, but let me just kind of go through what exactly I'm here doing in your home. I have a YouTube channel called Dear Daughter, and they're like video essays to my future daughter about how the world is like before she's even here.
Right.
The Korean War is this massive war that people just don't talk about as often as they should.
Yeah.
And so let's start with like the fun questions. First of all, do I call you Rich or Mr. Busa? Or
Yeah,
Mr.
Rich.
Rich is all right. Do you have a favorite meal?
A meal?
Yeah.
Oh.
Your favorite food? Favorite food?
Yeah, I love swordfish.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Swordfish?
Yeah, and in fact, my nephew took me out the other night. I had my other favorite, which is I get a half dozen oysters and a half shell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you do like Tabasco sauce with the lemon and all that good stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be careful. If you take too much of that hot sauce there, it gets in your nose.
Oh yeah. And if you could go anywhere in the world for 2 weeks, all expenses paid, safety guaranteed, where would you go?
Wow.
So
I think I'd want to go somewhere in the South Pacific. The other place I'd love to go.
Where's that?
New Zealand.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used to run 100-mile races, and they have one down in New Zealand. It's supposed to be really tough, yeah.
So you're a runner?
Yep.
How long have you been running?
Since the 40s.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
It's funny because I tell people when I started running, right, there were no like running clothes per se or anything,
Okay.
I remember, I didn't even know where I got them. I had a pair of shoes. They're called the Randy Boat Shoe. They're for being on deck, on boats.
Yeah.
And they have all these pores underneath so you don't slip.
Yeah.
And I used to run at night because I was self-conscious, People back then saw somebody running. They thought they were a thief or something.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah. And, the funny thing is, this generation especially, they don't realize that plastic only came into being not that long ago.
Right, okay.
So there wasn't any plastic.
Right.
You'd have to run with a glass bottle, which I didn't do. I would just take an orange and break it up in individual pieces.
Yeah.
And I'd have it in, again, wax paper because
Yeah.
there were no plastic.
Right.
And every once in a while I'd eat one,
And did you get into running before the war, after the war, during?
Oh, way before the war.
Way before.
Yeah.
So you've just always been a runner.
Yeah.
It's funny because in the 90s, didn't Bill Clinton like try to make running more popular? And
In 1999, I got into snowshoe racing.
Okay.
And what a great experience, because I traveled. The first year I did it was in 2005.
Yeah.
And it was in Anchorage, Alaska.
Okay.
Then it comes back to the East Coast. It was up in Vermont. And then it works its way back to the West Coast, And I was in Oregon, landed in Portland, and then you had to go north. And I was at the foothills of Mount
Hood.
Mount Hood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was really, people don't believe me, but I have the article that was written by a reporter, that did that kind of reporting.
Yeah.
The snow depth was 9 feet.
Really?
Yeah. And what they did is they put these orange flags, like, one here, and you had to stay there, because if you went off of it, you'd just sink.
Right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. What do you think about when you run? Is it like a meditative thing to keep the mind quiet, or do you think about life, or?
When I take off on my own during the weekdays, and I go into the state, there's a state park just a few miles from here.
Yeah.
And there's nobody around, it's like all the negative things come out of your body.
That's great.
Yeah.
The Korean War. How old were you when you enlisted, or were you drafted, enlisted? How does it work?
I enlisted.
Enlisted, yeah.
It's a funny thing. The town, I grew up in Belmont.
Okay. Yeah.
And right next to the movie theater was a little pool hall, and a lot of us used to go there after school, and shoot 8-ball.
Yeah.
You know what 8-ball
Yeah,
was?
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and there were about 6 of us, I think, and some of them were in my class, and some were class behind us. And we were there fooling around and everything. And I don't know who it was. One of them said, "Why don't we join the service? Because we're going to get drafted anyway." The next thing I know, I'm at the Boston Army base to enlist.
Yeah.
And the Boston Army base was huge.
Okay.
We're in this one section that it you know what it looked like? On pro football, when they're kicking extra point, and it's taken from behind, and it's only a 30-yard field goal, but it looks like 100 miles away.
Right.
Well, that's what this looked like.
Okay, gotcha.
So we're walking along, and I turned and I saw this poster on the wall, and it said B1, and it was a paratrooper coming down. Now, what's ironic is I'm petrified of height. No, honestly,
Sure, okay.
to this day, if I had to go up on a ladder on the roof, I'm petrified.
Okay.
I go there, talk to the guy, and I signed up. I volunteered, because the airborne is all volunteer.
Okay.
So I signed up. Went to basic training and everything, and then I went to jump school in Fort Benning, Georgia.
Okay.
And then I got assigned to an outfit, and my buddy and I, one from Maine, we volunteered to go to Korea. So he's a funny guy. He missed his flight, so we got separated, and I ended up here, and he ended up there, and everything. So I get to Busan, get assigned to this outfit. It was an airborne outfit. It was 187, and I'm no sooner there. I find out they're being relieved. They're going back to Japan for rest.
Oh.
And I went up to this company commander. I was assigned to a military police company.
Okay.
I said, "What the hell? I don't, So I said, I don't want to. I want to stay here. No, you have to go. So I got into. I was way down in southern Japan on Kyushu, which is the furthest island down.
Okay.
that's where guys used to ship out to go to Korea.
Korea, okay.
Because it was right across, just a short.
Right.
Yeah.
And Pusan,
So,
that was the city that was surrounded by the North Koreans, correct?
what?
The city of Pusan, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So you went after it was surrounded, or just before? Like, when did you get the Korea?
Because I was there. When I went there, it was 52.
52, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah. It was the middle of 52, I think,
Gotcha.
something like that. Yeah, because every month I go down to the company commander's office and I'd ask for a request for a transfer. So they finally got tired of me. So I got assigned, and I went back to Pusan.
Yeah.
And I had to go where I was going was above the 38th
Oh,
parallel.
wow.
It was like, Panmunjom.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, we were above the 38th parallel, but below that.
So,
place.
were you north of Pyongyang?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No.
No,
It was south of.
Okay, south of Pyongyang.
In other words, here's the 38th.
Yeah.
Here's us, and here's Pyongyang.
Yeah.
And,
Gotcha.
And it got. I got on this hill. It was called Boomerang because it was shaped like a boomerang.
Yeah.
And yeah, but, at first I wasn't up on our hill. I was like, I think they say like maybe 1,000 yards or so behind, and we did all the patrolling. The guys on the MLR, you know what MLR, main line of resistance.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they were just up there, but we did the patrolling.
Okay.
And then I don't remember how, but eventually I got up on that hill.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, my platoon leader came in and he said, we need 2 volunteers to go out on a special patrol, It wasn't like out and back. It was like we were going to go, there's a valley and then there's this small mountain.
Okay.
And we had to go up one of the, they call them fingers.
Okay.
If in Hawaii, the mountains are like
Right,
this.
like
There's a thing, and
yeah.
then there's a thing, and well, this thing had 5
Wow.
like that, and we had to go up this one specific one.
Okay.
And so, when he said, we need volunteers, I said, I'll go.
Yeah.
I'm stupid. Really.
You're patriotic. You want to help out.
Whatever they say.
Yeah. However you write it off.
So no one else responded, and then this kid responded.
Yeah.
He was a black kid,
Uh-huh.
and I think he was from North Carolina.
Okay.
And he actually was a tanker, tanks. He didn't know anything about infantry or anything.
Okay.
He probably never fired an M1.
Right.
But he volunteered. So they took us up to the main line of resistance in the daytime. They showed us where we had to go and everything. They gave us each a lunch,
like a ration?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it was like late at night. It was probably around 10 o'clock at night when they brought us down to the valley, and just at the base of the mountain there was this big pile. That was all farmland at one time. It was a big pile of rocks, and the guy says, "We'll meet you back here at such and such time."
Yeah.
I had a walkie-talkie.
Okay.
So I had to learn, the different how to do this
Sure.
and that, say this, and so I thought they were going to take us across the valley. So I says to this, his last name was Banks. I said, Banks, I'm going to go like, maybe 25 yards or so, and then I'll kneel down and you come up to me, and then I'll move. I said, we don't want to stay together.
Right.
just,
Okay. Smart.
So So he did that the first time. Then after that, he was just following me.
He doesn't care.
So we get to the bank.
Yeah.
There's no moon. You know, it's pitch black.
Wow.
You can't
See anything.
You can't discern
Right.
this or that. I just finally picked a thing, and I went you know, we climbed up to the top, and just below the crest, we were there, and then they started transmitting, you know, this and that, asking me this, asking me that. Well, you know, there obviously was a force on the other side, because I heard truck doors slamming, and,
wow.
you know, stuff like that. So I just report what I heard. You know?
Sure.
And then daybreak, because we had to stay there that whole day, and then that night, probably somewhere around midnight, we had to go back down, across to that pile of rocks.
Okay.
And I said, "Oh, I'm all done." We had to go back over with the attack force. They were making an assault. I said, "What the hell is it?" You know, I hadn't had any sleep.
Right.
You know? So fortunately, I didn't have to go up.
Okay.
You know, when when patrols go out, they have what's called an extracting force.
Okay.
If you get in trouble.
Okay.
You know, so that's where I was at the bottom. So they're going up to make the assault, and all of a sudden I hear, you know, all kinds of people hollering, and so they were coming back down, and there was a wounded guy that, on a stretcher they were bringing, and they said, you know, give us a hand. So I had to take. You know, you take a guy that's 170 pounds on a stretcher, dead weight. You can't do it with two people.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah.
So I'm on the back end, and it's still dark, you know. It's that period of time when, you know, there's a really good, I love language, English language, words.
Mm-hmm. The etymology of words and the history.
I have. There's a college, there used to be a college text. It was called Shipley's Dictionary of Word Origins.
Okay.
You ought to look it up sometime.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. But I think the word is phantasmagoria.
Okay.
And it's that period between daybreak and, you know,
it's like the
it's weird. You still can't discern people's faces or anything.
Yeah.
You know, I was carrying that stretcher. I looked at I could see steam coming off his chest. So,
wow.
I didn't know if he was alive or not. You know.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, it really struck me.
Yeah.
You know, and then we got back. Get back up on our hill and everything, and you know, they always have you come in, you know, and they interview you about, you know, what
happens.
What, yeah.
Do you know?
Then, you know, I went on another patrol, and our mission was supposed to be to bring back a prisoner for interrogation.
Okay.
You know, and I don't know how long we were out there. Screwing around. And we never made contact with anybody.
Okay.
So we're heading back to our hill, and we're like, that's the hill, and we're right there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden, you know, heard explosions, and all I remember is being prone, and you know, furrows, and you know, when you plow.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, all I remember is I was face down there. I turned my head like this, and I saw a grenade explode.
Wow.
And you know, they use concussion grenades a lot.
Okay.
That's what it must have been, because I should be dead otherwise, you know.
Is that close?
Yeah, and I lost my hearing.
Wow.
And you know, I was second in command as the platoon leader, and then I was the next in command. And you know what they tell you when you're in a firefight, it's important to get fire superiority. Otherwise, they got you down, and you know you can't do anything.
And what does fire superiority mean?
It means that you're the
aggressor?
have the firepower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So on the patrols, what happens? Talk about discrimination. The scout is always a Korean.
Okay.
You know.
Sure.
So if you make any contact at all, he's gone because they're here. Of course, you don't see them. So the scout goes in. They always let the scout go in.
Yeah.
And draw the rest of them out, and then they blow him away. And my platoon leader was hit with a burp gun. Now, burp gun fires 900 rounds a minute. Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's why they call it a burp gun. It's,
Right.
you know.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and he got hit across both thighs. And we had a medic on the patrol. He had just come over from the States, a young kid, you know. But I got to give him credit, you know. He didn't panic or anything. He tried to do what he could, but you know, the platoon leader just bled to death, you know. And you know, I always wanted somehow to make contact with his parents, or whatever, you know, because he never should have been there. He was what you call a Southern gentleman. He was and you know, I don't know what he saw. He saw something in me because I wasn't there that long. I went from PC to corporal.
Okay.
And then after that, I made sergeant. And after that, I made sergeant first class. Now, in peacetime, it'd take you 20 years to make all that grade.
Sure, right.
But the guy behind the platoon leader carries the commo wire.
Okay.
You know, it's on his back and it unravels.
Okay.
And so he's lying there. And so I got my rifle and with my butt, and I said, Rogers, start firing that goddamn weapon.
Yeah.
And there's no response. And the guy behind me was automatic rifleman.
Yeah.
You know, that's called a BAR.
Okay. Yep.
And it's really a great weapon. I shouldn't say that.
No, right.
But you know, it's reliable.
Yeah.
And it has a 20 round cartridge.
Okay.
The M1s have 4.
Right.
You know, so you're constantly having.
Right.
You know.
Changing mags.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of the Southern gentleman, the guy that you mentioned who got struck across the legs?
I have his. I have his thing in the.
And he's American, not Korean.
Oh yeah.
He's American Southern gentleman. Okay, gotcha. So.
Yeah. But he was just the nicest guy. You
Wow.
know? But anyway, this BAR kid was from Puerto Rico.
Okay.
And he's lying there, and I always remember there was no expression, you know. I didn't know if he was alive. Well, he got hit right in the groin, and it was really weird because his guts were protruding, but there was no blood.
Interesting.
And so I took his first aid kit, and I put it down there, you know, applied pressure to it. But, you know, all the shit was still going on.
Yeah.
So I had to, you know, go about my business. And the guy behind him was the ammo, he carried the ammo for the automatic rifleman. And he got hit in the mouth here, you know. So there was the scout, platoon leader, the ammo, his commo guy, me, the automatic rifleman, and his carrier.
Okay.
So there's seven people.
Yeah.
I never got a scratch.
Wow.
Every one of them, you know,
Yeah,
either
got something.
died or, yeah.
How many people out of that group died?
I know there was one other guy further back that somehow got hit, but the rest of them were back enough, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't last long. It seems like an eternity.
Right.
And you know, I did the dumbest thing you could do.
What's that?
You know, when I saw that wound with him, you know, and I just saw that dead blank, you know, look
Yeah.
in his face. So, but I didn't have the wherewithal to test to see if he'd get a pulse or anything. I got so ticked off. I grabbed his automatic rifle. I got up and I ran out in the field and I was screaming, just spraying everywhere, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was. They must have taken off because otherwise I'd be dead too, you know.
Whew. That's that's incredible. I mean, like I can't even imagine.
Yeah, John Wayne.
Yeah. Do you still keep in contact with a lot of people from the war?
Well, there's one guy down in
Orlando?
Florida. Yeah, yeah. But you know, after that, you know, this was in June of '53.
Okay.
You know, the peace talks are going on
Yeah,
all
for
the time.
about a year now at that
The
point.
Chinese. I was in the 3rd Infantry Division,
Uh-huh.
and I was in the 7th Regiment. To the, it would have been the east of me, I don't know, but way off to this side
Mhm.
of the peninsula there, you know, was the 15th Regiment.
Okay.
And then there was one other one, and I don't remember what that was. But what the Chinese were doing, that some of the heaviest fighting was that period of time, because the Chinese were trying to push us back below the 38th parallel,
And, like,
so they
recapture
would have
Seoul.
more bargaining.
Gotcha.
You know,
Yeah. At the time, MacArthur wanted to duke the Chinese.
yeah,
And then Truman fired him.
yeah. So it was coincidence. It was Flag Day, June 14th, and it was around almost midnight. And all of it. No, there's no way. You know, people can say I imagine. They should never say that unless they experience the same thing.
Right.
You know, you can't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to capture here as well, is that when we talk about the Korean War, for you to be on that ridge going up the fingers with your friend or seeing what you
Yeah.
saw,
Yeah.
you're seeing that behind your eyes, but I don't have a visual of it.
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah.
I want to know what that essence was like, and
Yeah.
like to see your friends, you know, falling like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. But I got a copy of it, a Stars and Stripes report. You know, in roughly just about 5 hours. And I always remember the report. Hostilities ended at 5:05 a.m.
Okay.
It's just up
Right.
here. But you know, something like that, it's the luck of the draw.
Mm.
You know, I'm here and this guy.
Right.
Now, when that, it was unbelievable. You know, when you have a conflict like that, we fire up 81 millimeter flares.
Okay.
You know, to light
Yeah.
the area. The smoke was so dense, and I can remember just so vivid. It's like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
I looked up, and I could see all the smoke up there, and it was like the flares was like the sun
Yeah, right.
trying to break through the fog.
Sure.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it, jeez, it's just, now when it started, I had an assistant squad leader, and you know, it's interesting. Everybody's afraid, but being a coward is one thing. Okay, to this day, you know, I made a decision. I was going to turn him in for not obeying an order.
Okay.
Then somehow I said to myself, because he was the kind of person you wouldn't like.
Okay.
And I said, let him go home and let him tell all his combat stories.
Yeah.
And he'll get away with it.
Yeah.
But you know what? He's got to look at himself in the mirror when he shaves. And that'll always be there. That's worse than a court martial.
I like that.
Yeah. So he wouldn't come out of the bunker.
Oh wow.
So I went down to the next, and it's unbelievable. The shells are bursting off. I went down to the next bunker, and he was my this is another guy, an automatic rifleman. Nicest kid. He was 6'8".
Wow.
And he was like the kind of person you'd love to have.
Okay.
Because you give him an order, and he does it beyond your expectations.
That's right.
He's really. So he had his own bunker. He had he had a firing station. You dig down so that he can stand and fire. Through the aperture.
Right.
So I go there, and the bunker had collapsed. It got hit, with more. I would say it was a mortar rather than an artillery shot.
Okay.
It's pitch black, and all this crap is still going on. So I had to crawl, and so I'm hollering his name, and I'm not getting any response. And I'm just crawling like this, and I felt something. And I picked it up. I couldn't tell what it was. And it was wet. And all of a sudden, I realized it was a steel helmet. Just crushed. When it was all over, I was back in my bunker, and I finally got this idiot to come out of his bunk. Yeah. And it was pitch silence, just dead silence. And so I said, McCloskey, let's go back down, and just make sure everybody's okay. We walked, we're no more than, there's not a sound, honest to God. All of a sudden, I heard boom. One mortar round landed right on my bunker, and I slept. We had just like wooden posts, and we stretched comma wire to make, and he was in the bottom and I was in the top, and lying down. There's this much clearance between me and the sandbags and everything up there. And bang, and that was it. Nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell is that? What I don't understand.
Yeah. So he didn't make it.
Huh?
So he didn't make it, the 6'8" guy.
No, yeah. And it's an interesting story, okay? I got... Now you'd have to understand, when I think back, I went back home, no one, honest to God, I never said anything, but no one ever said, hey Rich, good to see you back, how was it, not.
Oh my God.
I worked for 30 years in I was in micrographics, no one ever said anything, It wasn't until the 1990s when I started doing the 100-mile races, and this guy I worked with, he always came with me, and he was like a support person. You know, he'd meet me at different places if I needed this and needed that. And I don't know how he found out that I was awarded the Silver Star.
Oh,
you know.
congratulations.
Yeah, you can see it in there.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, I never knew about it. I got discharged in November 30th of 53, and it was like in 1954 somewhere. I don't know. Halfway through the year, you know, probably May or June, something like that. Get this thing in the mail. You know, and I opened it up, and it was that certificate that you know, and the medal itself. You know, now they're really not supposed to do that. You know, that's supposed to be presented to you by your state representative.
Okay.
Or your national representative. So I opened it up and I put it away.
Yeah.
You know, never said anything. But then this friend of mine started saying, and I said, Rich, please don't do it. He'd always go like this, superstar. You know? And here's the thing, and I don't know if you realize this, but I get so upset when people say he won the Silver Star.
Sure.
I said it's not a game.
I clearly understand.
I said I was awarded
Right.
it. And I don't want to say it means nothing to me. What I'm saying is, for every guy that got a medal, God knows how many guys did things that were not seen by anybody else.
Yeah.
You know, and they died in doing what they did, and you know.
There's a quote, I believe it's Plato, that says that only the dead have seen the end of war. You know, otherwise most of us have come close. Not us, but like you have come close to the end, but only the dead have actually seen the end of war.
He also said something good about taxes.
What did he say?
He said it basically the average people, right? You know, will always pay their taxes. Yeah. The wealthy will always pay less. You know, they, you know.
Yeah.
He did a lot of great things.
Yeah. By the way, what you said about your platoon and certain people being picked off instead of you, and then you called it luck. There's a quote by Aristotle that says, "Luck is the arrow hitting the guy next to you." Not you. That's Aristotle.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know, I was diagnosed with PTSD.
I was going to ask about this. Yeah.
You know what? You're only the second person, other than my doctor, you know, at the VA, that knows that.
Yeah.
And you know, I deliberately don't. You know what would happen if all of a sudden I made that? I would be treated differently. You know what I'm saying?
If you made what?
If I made people aware
okay,
that
gotcha,
I have
gotcha,
that,
gotcha.
you know, nothing would ever be the same.
Sure.
You know, so I just keep it.
Well, I should let you know. My next couple of questions were going to be about. You mentioned coming home. People didn't really acknowledge what you had just gone through. Why is that? Is that because the media is trying to downplay? The government's trying to downplay? People don't know? I mean, what's the issue here?
I can't understand that. I really don't. It's a mystery.
They say one of the best things you can say to a Vietnam War veteran is welcome home. And that's because when they came back, people were just like rejecting them as being baby killers and all that stuff. So I just wonder why certain wars. Hey,
excuse me.
How you doing? No, you're good.
I just forgot something. I'll go in the other room. I'll leave you alone.
No, you're good. So yeah, it's just curious how certain wars we, bolster up the heroes coming home, and certain wars we don't. I can't tell if that's a media thing or a government thing or just like an awareness thing. It's very strange.
Yeah. I meant to tell you, they used to try to get us one hot meal a day, but where we were, there was a road coming in, a single road, and that's the way the truck had to go. And the Chinese had that road zeroed in.
Okay.
They knew, especially at noontime.
That's the supply road, yeah.
And so we lost a few vehicles that way. But basically we just lived on sea rations,
Oh, wow.
And my bunker, this is so funny. We'd eat the sea rations, and then we'd throw the cans over the side. And the thought process was, if Chinese were trying to sneak up, we'd hear the rattle of the can.
Okay.
We didn't take into consideration the rats. The rats are out there all night, and in the bunker, we had a little. I don't know who made it. A little platform to put things on, and I don't know if they still make them. They were called Chuckles, the candy bars. They were 5 or 6 different colors.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, it must have been the other guy that left it there. So I'm in the building, and all of a sudden I'm hearing this rattling, and I'm lying like this, and the other guy lit the candle, and here's this rat, not a rat, dragging that candy bar.
The worst commercial for Chuckles. Oh, that's funny. Regarding, possible PTSD, things like that, if somebody were to offer you a trip to Korea now, is that a thing in your memory where you're like, I don't even want to go there? Or are you like, you know what, I'm okay with it, let me go check it out?
Yeah. No, actually, I really want to go back, because there were no trees.
Okay.
Everything was blown away.
Yeah.
It was just a big pile of dirt.
Yeah.
And I can imagine now I wouldn't recognize it,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. They have, every year they have a thing where you can sign up, and the Korean government will pay, once you're there, they'll pay for your lodging, meals, everything. You got to take the cost of the flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can sign up for different things.
Okay.
You can, but it would be interesting to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, Seoul is now one of the most advanced cities in the whole world.
Oh yeah. I always say that there's nothing good about war.
Yeah.
But I always feel sorry for the Vietnam vets, because they got their asses kicked out. Wasn't through no fault of theirs.
No, sure.
It was poor leadership.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
But in the Korean War, look what we did. We took a country that was desolate and everything, and they brought themselves back to be, they're the 10th largest economy in the world.
That's right.
And I'll tell you, they are the most grateful people.
Yeah.
We went back to D.C. They were having the 60th anniversary of the peace talks. And they had different functions put on by different people all day and night. And the Korean organization put on this thing. And they had all the flags of the countries, that served there.
Yeah.
And my grandkids they each carried a flag.
Okay. Yeah.
That was a big deal.
That's awesome.
But there were a group of Korean women, and I started talking to them. They were all from Silver Springs, Maryland. There must be a community there. I was telling them, I said, when I landed at Busan, I said, the train, it was steam.
Yeah.
That they had to stop every so often to get water. You
Yeah.
know? And I said, little kids would come running out alongside the train, and we'd throw them, candy or whatever whatever we had. And this one woman said to me, I could have been one of those kids. That really cracked me up.
Yeah.
Geez. But this guy in the next bunker to me that got killed. After I got home, I kept wanting, to make contact with his family, and
Don't want coffee?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
I think a glass. That'd be great.
Good. You're a terrible host.
No, he's doing great.
What do you have with that?
I'll just take it black.
you,
Yeah. Why not?
I take it black at Dunkin' Donuts, but I can't with this.
Oh, really?
I hope it's not
Thank
too
you so much.
strong.
Cal, you pour me a little, will you? And just put a little squirt of cream in it, will you? Kill the taste.
Can you use
What was
a
your last
coaster?
made?
Thank you.
My father was in the service.
Oh, yeah?
And that was in
Yeah.
World War II.
Wow.
He was actually
So-
he was on the Arizona before
Oh.
Pearl Harbor.
Wow.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
got transferred off, fortunately.
Yeah.
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 I just saw the Arizona in July because I took my mom to Hawaii, so we visited the whole
Oh, did you?
thing.
Oh.
Yeah. Los Angeles is a lot different now.
Oh God. Oh
It's-
God. Yeah.
It's not doing too great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see it in the news. And
Oh,
it
yeah,
just,
yeah. Very
it's
nasty.
sad. It's
Yeah.
sad. It was very, and I was just a kid, but I remember it.
Sure.
Between that and San Diego, he was
Yeah.
stationed in San Diego
Okay.
too. So, but he was wherever it was in San Diego, but we had a little house up in the hills someplace, and then he would come, I guess, on weekends or whatever. And then he was gone, and we moved back to Tacoma, Washington. That's
Okay.
where my mother was from, so we were living up there. So I didn't see him until 45,
Okay.
after the war.
Yeah.
And then we moved back here. So yeah, it was a long stretch. Weird. I'm off again, Tally Ho. Bye bye. Nice meeting
Yeah,
you.
nice to meet you. Thanks for the coffee. See you around.
Have a cookie.
I will too.
These are good.
Yeah, I'll probably take one to go. So, where were we? So you come back in 54 or 53?
3.
53. You're how old then? Like 20,
I was 20. I was born in 29.
29. So you are
39.
24
49.
then.
Yeah.
24 years old and 53, and that's the decade of conformity. Like the 50s was the decade of conformity. Eisenhower's elected in 53. 2 wars are now done. World War II, Korean War. What is life like then, and how much has it changed from then to now? That's about 70 years.
Yeah.
So 70, yeah, maybe 69 years. Like, what are you seeing, like as you see cars change, houses change, style, culture, everything?
I told you I like quotations.
Yeah.
I got a quotation from Horace Greeley. You know him?
Mm-mm.
No?
Horace Greeley?
He was the one that said, "Go west, young man,
Ah,
go
okay.
west," in the 80s, 1980s. I mean 1880s. And what he said was that every generation will turn around and say, "My generation was better than this one,"
Sure.
which is true, okay? But I have to take exception to the rest of that, because there is a difference, okay? When I was a kid, there was such a thing as privacy. There is no privacy. You used to hear ads, you can, do this in total security, it's not, there isn't any,
Yeah.
okay? And the other thing, one of the other things is, there's no more childhood. These generations have been robbed of their childhood,
Yeah.
and that's different, and that's better than what we had.
Do you feel like they're not going out to interact with each other?
Yeah.
Just to go play, just to go learn.
See, you know, because of the way we're structured now, you don't get the people-to-people contact. You know, I mean, I can't tell you. I could write a book and just put all the cuss words that I've made up. You know, and I know they can't hear it, but when they say this message may be, you know, recorded for training purposes, I let them have it, and I feel good afterward too.
Perfect. Yeah. Record this.
Yeah. But you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There's so many things, and it's like, you know, I don't have neighborhoods like. I mean, they're still in the remote areas.
Yeah.
You have that country type stuff like Maine and Vermont, New Hampshire. But other than that, you could live on the street for 20 years and not know a neighbor.
Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah.
And that's gone. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's correct. I mean, because you know, when you get to a certain age, you start reflecting back. Yeah, I tell people all the time, if God said to my father, "I'm going to send you back to Earth. You take a look around. If you like it, stay there."
Yeah.
You know what he'd say? He'd come down and he'd say, "Get me the hell out of here."
Yeah, I think you're right. I completely agree on all those points.
But you know, see, we don't. I mean, I got a great thing. When I say I'm not religious, okay, what I mean is, and I'm you know, I do a lot of research on a lot of things.
Yeah.
I got a book about religions of the world.
Yeah.
And I've never found anything that really makes me say, yeah, that might be good. You know, and there's so much hypocrisy. You know, I studied with a Jehovah's Witness guy one time. I don't know how I got involved. Nice guy. And I used to meet with him. We used to talk about, describe the. Now, they claim that their version of the Bible is the most accurate, and they follow it to the letter.
Sure.
Okay. Now, right off the bat, I could show you. I got a book that I got. They have a formula they devised to be able to predict when Armageddon's going to happen.
Okay.
Okay. Now, here's where the hypocrisy comes in.
Yeah.
On the one hand, they tell you they follow the Bible to the letter. Okay. There's some place in the Bible I know that says, "No one shall know the appointed time, not even my son."
Right.
So what are they screwing around for?
Right.
Okay.
That invalidates their formula.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
But you know. So I mean, I love nature. Okay. I keep saying, you know, the one person I believe in is Santa Claus. No, really. Here's a guy that spends 364 days a year just making toys and stuff for kids.
Yeah.
You know, and their big deal is Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
You know, and all he wants to do is make kids happy.
Yeah.
Now,
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm not knocking, okay, but this person that people pray to God.
Yeah.
Now, since the day Christ came on this earth, people have been praying for peace, and it just keeps getting worse. Absolutely worse.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, I hear people say, "Oh, I heard the Lord say," yeah, full of crap.
I agree.
You know, you know, I'm a person. I believe in myself.
Yeah.
Okay, I know what I can do.
Yeah.
You know, why do I have to go and tell some stranger who's probably a pervert about my sins? And
Sure.
he says, you know, go say 10 Hail Marys and 10 Our Fathers. You know,
Yeah.
it's.
There's a book I'll recommend for you. It's called The Worm at the Core, and it's about all this, where people are afraid of what happens after death, so they hunker down in their own beliefs. And if there's an opposing belief, they want to like eradicate that belief because it can't be right. It can't be right. We have to be right. But the other side's saying,
Yeah.
you have to be wrong. We have to be right. We have to be right.
Yeah. But
So-
I mean, it's like so many people are
Yeah.
so concerned about what's going to happen to all these things, you know.
Yeah.
And the chances are they're going to bring in a dumpster, you know, and all this stuff that meant something to you, you know.
Yeah.
So why would you worry about it, you know? All you can hope for is that maybe one of your kids or your grandkids finds something and saves it.
For sure.
You know, other than that,
Yeah.
you know, why are you worrying?
You know, that speaks volumes about going to war, though. It's like, look, you send all these young men
Yeah.
to go to this small piece of land to hunker down and to shoot to death the other person, to bomb them, but all for what? Like, you send these old guys who send young boys to go in there to go do their dirty work.
Right.
Meanwhile, they kick back and go, yeah,
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
keep fighting.
Yeah.
And then it ends on the 30th parallel. It's like,
You
okay.
know, like when there's a tragedy or something, you know, our prayers are with you.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers. It's the most hollow thing you can do.
There was one woman that came out, and basically, not in this tone, she said, "The hell with that."
Yeah.
You know, do something.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers
No,
is the
but-
cheapest way to...
God is a crutch.
Yeah,
You know,
I agree. I completely agree.
it's.
See, I have a
Yeah,
theory.
but you know what? You, I can't talk this way to a lot of people.
I understand.
You know, and I never say your way is wrong.
Right.
You know, I just tell them the concerns I have. You know.
But you know, the issue is, and like, I don't mind saying this about you, I think that you're smarter and you're wiser than those people. But the issue is, the wiser we are, the more we kind of keep quiet about it. But we should be the louder ones.
Yeah.
But we're not,
Oh, yeah.
because you know so much.
Absolutely.
You realize that you're not going to say anything. But the
Yeah.
people who know the least are the most vocal.
Yeah.
But then they're sending people into harm's way.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just saw a thing on PBS.
Yeah.
They do such, you know, people watch crap. There's so much good
Yeah.
stuff to watch, you know. This about this woman, a black woman. Her last name is, let's see, I forget. But she was the female counterpart to Martin Luther King.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I wonder who that is.
such a dynamic speaker. It's just not every person, you know. And you know, she just never gave up.
Right.
And she's a good reason why the Civil Rights Act that Johnson passed got through.
Okay.
Yeah, she was a big influence.
Okay. I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, I'll give you her name.
Sure.
But I don't know. You know, my whole thought process is, you know, I used to write poetry.
Yeah.
And it was shortly after I came home. I had this job where I traveled,
Yeah.
so I'd have to stay, you know, in Hawaii or something, you know. And I don't know why. I said just sit there, and all I have to hear is a word, and I can write a poem with that word being the influence.
Sure, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. And it's funny, I can't do that now. I lost it.
No, come on. You didn't lose it. It's somewhere in there.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to probably end on this last question. What's a thing that you want to get off your chest, that you wish all people knew? That you wish people of any culture, race, religion, age, anything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, from your life and your experiences, you're like, you know what? If they knew these couple of things, I think that would feel good for me
Yeah.
to get this off my chest.
Yeah, yeah. Basically, if you got a concern about something and you can do something, do it.
Yeah.
But don't wait for somebody else to do it, okay? And that's why this woman, so dynamic, what a speaker. And she's from nothing, you know? She she has had that ability to, you know, get people involved, and you know, I never forget. She said when she was I don't know if she's in Mississippi, but anyway, she went to vote, to sign up to vote, and because of that, she lost her job, and her husband lost his job. She wasn't a slave thing. She was a sharecropper.
Okay.
That generation,
Yeah.
you know. And you know, I could go on and on. If we sat down and said, what is it we have to fix? Okay, the very first thing is to fix what we did to the American Indian. It's unbelievable. I mean, talk about lying, cheating, robbing. You know, we made treaty after treaty
Broken.
to suit our purpose, and when it was no useful, they just throw it in the trash can. You know, and I support a couple of organizations. One is it's a school up in Montana. I think it's run by a priest or something. I don't know, but you know, there's the I forgot. It's a federation, the Indian American Indians Federation or something. But you know, all of these reservations that they were put on, you know, they not only screwed them, but they gave them the land that nobody else would want. You know.
Right. Okay.
And you know, you had two types of Indians. You had those that traveled with the season. You had those that were farmers. They stayed in one place. And you can't take somebody that their life was involved in following the seasons and put them on a reservation.
Right.
You know.
Right. It's estimated that there was about 150 million Native Americans here.
Yeah.
150 million.
Yeah.
That's half the American population right now. And now there's only a couple 100,000,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, well, he was Secretary of State at the time of North Dakota. I don't know if you remember, but he wasn't going to allow the Indians on the reservations there
Okay.
to vote.
Oh, okay.
You know why?
Why?
They didn't have a street address.
Perfect.
They don't have street addresses. They have P.O. boxes.
Yeah.
Honest to God.
I know.
You know. Oh, we did the church. You know,
Sure.
I do my thing and you do your thing. If we got a problem, and you know, we work it out. You know, if you're two sensible people,
Yeah.
you're always willing to give this to get that. You know, it's never. That's the whole idea of negotiating. Where neither side is going to get everything. You know, and you just have to work that out. And you don't work it out by going to war.
I love that.
Yeah. Since the time of Christ, every time there's an issue in any government, in
Yeah.
any country, and they can't resolve it, they go to war.
Yep.
And this is the 21st century.
Right.
I keep saying, you know, I don't know where I came from, but it was another planet. It wasn't here. I got caught in a black hole or something.
Well, Rich, I think this video at least will be a small measure to kind of help that movement and to help people see, especially, you know, like with your experience and with everything that you said. I mean, your words carry their weight. It means a lot for you to speak to like a younger generation and to say, war isn't always the answer. It seems to be the quickest thing that we have a knee-jerk reaction to, but who's paying the price?
Yeah.
And there are ways to make peace and to get along that aren't necessarily at the end of a gun.
Yeah. You know, one last thing.
Yeah.
You know, you get up every morning, you shave, do not all the time, but sometimes I'm shaving in that mirror, and I'm thinking about the guys I served with.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that were killed, and I'm saying to myself, my memory of them is still 18 or 19-year-old kid.
Sure.
You know, someone that never got a chance to experience life, to get a job, meet someone, get married, have a family. Nothing.
Yeah.
You know, it's just doesn't
It's frozen
seem,
in time right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But you know, it took me. I after I get out, I kept thinking about this kid that was killed. You know, the next bunker down.
Yeah.
And then I found out after doing a lot of research. There are two brothers down in Dallas whose father was killed in Korea. They set up this website. I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
It absolutely amazing.
Okay.
You have a date or a place or anything. Like I can call up the date that my patrol was, got the shit together.
Yeah.
And it'll tell you who was killed on that day, who was wounded,
Right. Preserve that.
Yeah, and that's how I found out where this kid, because other than that, I had no clue what state he was
Right.
from.
Right.
Well, it turns out he's from Michigan. Well, in Michigan, they don't have towns and cities and stuff like that. They have townships.
Okay.
So I got the township he was from and everything, and I Googled a major daily newspaper that covers that area, and I got it, and I just picked somebody, the different departments. I just picked out a department that might be, and I wrote a letter and told them what I was trying to do. And I didn't hear anything. And then, it must have been about a month probably, I got a phone call, and it was this kid's younger brother.
Oh, okay.
And we talked for 2 hours.
That's awesome.
Really, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my original thing was, way back, was to contact with his father
Okay.
and tell his father what a wonderful son he had,
Yeah.
because this kid, always talked about his father, And I said to this kid on the phone, I said, he must have been your father's favorite son. He said he was, But it just left a void in me that I wasn't able to do that, But this guy, this younger brother, I think there were 3 sisters, and they were all alive. So whatever pictures I had of him, I had 4 copies made and put in little booklets and sent it to him. And he said, "You're forever my friend."
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm glad you made that connection.
Yeah. I just got an email. He said his wife is in the first stages of Alzheimer's.
Rich, I want to thank you so much for this. I had a lot of fun, learning about all this stuff and getting the inside scoop. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm going to end the interview here.